Hello dear friends, thank you so much for watching today's video. I will do my best to make this simple and clear. This is Netcode-Hub channel. I am Frederick, your lesson facilitator. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't done that, and also click on the notification icon to receive updates as soon as a new lesson drops. You can also like this video to support the channel grow. We have more information for you at the description. Thanks to all those who bought me a coffee. Today, I'll facilitate on restricting users from accessing Web API server using JWT Authentication and Authorization with the help of SQLite database. The source code will be available on GitHub, so please check the video description for the link. Maybe before you can access the API, you must register. You must have an account to our system before you can have access to the API. And that is what we're going to have a look today. So let's start. We create a new Web API project by clicking on the file, then new project. So this is Visual Studio, and we're going to select Web API. So when you go to this, you can just go downstairs and let's see, we have Web API over here. So you can choose this one, ASP.NET Core Web API. Alright, so let's click on next. And now here I'm going to name it as demo restrict. So API. Okay, so API with auth. Okay, so with authentication and authorization. So let me make it with 2 auth. Alright, so they will be available at the GitHub. So this is going to be the name. Okay. Now, when I'm done with this, that's the location and this is the solution. So click on next. And the framework I'm going to choose here, the 7.0. And authentication type here, I'll choose none because we're going to create a custom one for this. So as soon as this project is well created, the very first thing that we're going to do here is we have to install some packages that are going to help us to have access to database and also JWT authentication and etc. Okay, so let's install them. Pause the video whilst you try to install these packages. Now as for me, I'm going to unload this project and I'll copy the packages name in there. So let's see, this is what I'm going to use as a package. So we have these packages as soon as you create the API, and I'm going to add few of them. So let me add this. Okay, so this one I'm adding first one. We have the EF core, the SQLite EF core, and also EF core the design for the database. And also we need this for the API. So for the authentication and authorization, we need this. This open API, it is here already. So I'm going to remove this out. And also the swashbuckle for the Swagger UI 2, it is registered already. So I also remove that. Alright, so pause the video and try to install this. So save this. And now let's reload the project with dependencies. So solution, right click on the same project and click on reload project with dependencies. And now when it is done, you right click on dependencies and I click on manage NuGet packages. So you can see that they are going to be installed and you're going to find them under the update section. As you can see from here, they are installed. Okay, so let's build this application and see if everything works as expected. Alright, so you can see that it is built Now, what we're going to do next here is we're going to create our models, and that's going to be for registration model, login model. We need user role model, and also we need token info model. So we need 4 models to do this. Now let's do it. So we go to the same solution, and now here let's create folder. So let me clear this out. Let's create a folder and I'll name it as models. So let's add new folder, and it is models. So with this model, the first one, registration, so first class. So with this, you want to have something like ID, name, phone, email, and password. Okay, now let's do the same thing for the login. So login, we need to have email and password, and that's all for the login. So add a new class, and that is login. So for this login, we grab only the email and then the password. And now we need a user role. Okay, so we can assign a role to user anytime the user logs in. So let's create a class for this user role. So solution models, let's add a new class, user role. And now we're going to have ID, user role, and user ID. Okay, now let's have this token info, and that's where we're going to save the token. Okay, so the token that we're going to generate, that's going to be the JWT token. We save it here. So we create the class token info, and now with this token info, we want to have the ID, the user ID, and also the token itself. You know, the token is going to be a string, so that's why we set it as a string data type. All right, so we have this. Let's create our AppDB contest for the connection. So with that, we're going to create a folder and I'll name it as data. So let's add a folder and I'll name this as data. And now in that, you're going to create a class. Now the class, you can name it any name that you want, but I'm going to say it's going to be the AppDB contest. So class AppDB contest. And now in that, we're going to have registration. We're going to have our tables as well. So in here, I'll just grab this, and now this is going to inherit from DB contest. Okay, so this DB contest is coming from this EF core class. Okay, so this is the EF core namespace, and that's where it's coming from. So let's include the namespace for the models. So we have registration. So let's see. We have registration. Let's take the name of. All right, so this is wrong. Let's correct it. Yes, registration. Let's see. Okay, so I'm going to clear this. All right, so you can see that we have this. We have our AppDB contest. We have it's inheriting from this. We have a database table references made. So this is a database table name. And now this is the model that I'm going to use. Okay, so that is for, it's going to use this model properties as a columns in the table to create a table for us. And that's the work of this EF core. So this EF core. So once you're done with this, let's create our connection string in the app.setting.json file. So this, let's create our connection string over here. Remember that here we are using SQLite. So our connection string is going to be very simple. So we're going to have our connection string over here. And this is saying that this is my DB. Okay, so on my database. Okay, so that's you see that this is a DB, so it's going to add this as a file to this server project. Okay, The connection name here is default connection. Let's save that. Aside from that, what we're going to do here is we are going to create random keys for this authentication. So we can do that by having this. We need some keys over here. So let's add it straight. And this is for the JWT. So we need a key, and this is our key. Okay. We also need an issuer and an audience, and are the same. So this is going to be the port of this API. So this will be an appendant. When we run this project, we're going to change the port to this, to the current port that we have here. Okay. So let's see. Let's try to run this project so we can grab the port and I'll make a change over here. Okay, so when running this is the port, so 7249. This is all that we need. Let's grab this and we can now close this. So let's replace it with it. Now, with this key is going to be supposed to be unique, and you can generate some random string from this site. Okay, so it must be unique over here. All right, so we have this. Now let's create let's register this connection in the program.cs file. That's the next thing to do. So we can do that by using this. So Solution Explorer. Let's click on program.cs file, and then before the app build, okay, let's hit this here. So we are using the appdb context, and we pass in the class that we created. You can see we are getting the connection string name. That's the default connection. In case it doesn't exist, throw this exception. So this is the default connection that we specified here. I hope you remember. Yes, that is this one. Okay, so now we are done with this. What we can do here is within the same program.cs file, we have to tell our system, we have to tell our API to use JWT bearer, okay, to use the token. So in order to do that, we are going to also add this to it. So let's add authentication before the app build. Let's add authentication. So you can see that you're using beta.services.add authentication as JWT bearer token. Okay, so these are the necessary things that we need. You can see here is the validate issuer, validate audience, and the lifetime. So the time that the token needs to expire, we're going to accept and make it as true. So you should check that as well. You should also check for username. That's not the username, that's the issuer and the audience. You know, we specify them here. We have the issuer and the audience here. And for the lifetime too, we're going to specify it as well. Now you can see from here, so we get the issuer and the audience from this. And now this is the signing key. So that's the signing key, the key that we specified here as a string, unique string. Get it from this site. Okay, and we do that here. All right, so aside from that, what we're going to do here is we have to add authentication as a middleware pipeline. So that is over here. Now take note, before this authorization, put this here, authentication. So we authenticate first before we authorize. Okay, now when we run this, it's going to work. We haven't done database migration, so let's quickly do that. But before we do that, let's finish everything from here. You know, we are going to use the Swagger to test. And you know, Swagger, we have to specify that it must use the API authorization authentication system. So to do that, we have to configure that. Defaultly, when you create this web API project, Swagger is already configured because as you can see, we have app.use Swagger and app.use Swagger UI. You can also check the services here. It has already registered as beta.services.add Swagger gen. So we are going to remove this and we're going to specify some parameters in here. So down here, before the app build, let's create a vacuum space. And now in here, let's specify the Swagger and also add some services that we need to use in that. So in doing so, that is what we are going to add to that Swagger to make it accept authentication. You know, we are using beta.services.add Swagger gen, and that's the services in that we pass in this parameter as Swagger. Now it needs this doc, so that's a v1, that's for version 1, And here for this open API information, we have this everything over here, and that's for the description and this for the title, okay, and the version as well. Now here to enable authorization using the Swagger JWT. So here you can see we are adding security definition. That's the type here is bearer, and the name, the type here, security schema tab.api key. That's what we are using. The scheme is bearer and the bearer format is JWT. Okay, so here this is a header and now this is a description. Now the header here, description, we are saying enter the bearer and now leave space. Okay, and so we have an example specified here. Environment.newline means create a new line. So that's what all this long one means. Aside from that, we add a security requirement. And now in here, we create an open API security scheme. The type here is a security scheme specified already. And then the ID here is a bearer. As you know, we are specified as a scheme over here. So we have the most part here is we have the scheme bearer and then the bearer format is JWT. So it knows that it's going to accept JWT to the header before a request is being made from this the Swagger. The reason why we are doing this is when you have access to, when you run an application and you want to communicate with the database or the API, because we are using this, we are registering this service, it's going to restrict the incoming service or the incoming call to add authentication or to add a token. Okay, now you know we are not calling it from any application or any web app, so we're going to use the Swagger to test. So in that, you have to add this authentication system to the Swagger, so it appends the HTTP context before it makes a request. So let's see. You don't worry. When you get to the practical aspect, you're going to understand. When you run this application, you're going to understand this better. All right. So let's save this. And the next thing that we're going to do here is we are going to perform a database migration. So let's first build this and see if it's working perfectly as expected. So right click on this and now let's build this project. Alright, so you can see it is now built. So let's open our package manager console. If you're not having this, then click on tools, okay, and now choose NuGet packages manager and now choose package manager console. It's going to pop up over down here. So let's wait for the PowerShell to be initialized. After it has done, so we can just CLS, you can clear the screen, and now LS here, we can see it has opened us, get at the current root, the current directory that we are. So let's change it to CD. Let's paste in this, and I can see when I type in LS, you have all the lists. So this is .NET EF migrations. So let me say this is the first or initial. Well, any. Oh, so initial. Okay. So .NET EF migrations, and now this is going to be done. Let me see. Okay. So let's see, from this, it's supposed to .NET EF migrations. Okay, then you're going to say and let's make it at first. Now this .NET EF here is going to be done by, when you check this Solution Explorer from this project, you know, we installed one package known as EF Core Design. That is what this is coming from. Okay, so let's run this code. So it's going to wait. So let's wait for this to get built, and I'm going to create a file for us. After that, you're going to update the database. All right, so you can see that it is done, and let's update the database. So you can do that by using .NET EF. Then we say database update. Then the name is first that we specified. So this is going to run the query and I'll create the tables that we have specified. And these are the tables that I'm going to create with registration table, user row table, and also token info table. So let's see. Yeah, so you can see it has finished running this. So when you check our Solution Explorer, you see we're going to have a folder called migrations, and I have the migration file with the name that we specify in here. Okay. Now we are done with this, we have to create our controller. Okay, so let's right click on controller, and now with this controller we are going to create a service first. But first of all, let's create a service so we can call the service inside the controller. So let's create a folder here, and I'll name it as services. So first of all, we're going to create an interface, and this interface is going to be our client service. So right click on this service, add a new class, and choose an interface, and it is an iClient service. We're also going to create implementation class. So we're going to say client service. So we right click on the same model, same services folder, add a new class, and that's going to be for this class as a client service. So from the interface, we want to have registration. So let's have the interface. First, we're going to register, and now second, we're going to log in, and we're going to log in. Okay, so control period. Let's include. So this is registration, not registration model. This is registration itself. Let's see. So let's delete this file format. All right. So you can see we have the class models, also namespace reference or use here. So this is what you're going to register. You're going to also log in. Now let's go to the client service. So this is a client service, and now we have to inherit from the interface over here. All right. So we do that, and the first thing I'm going to do here is we're going to create a constructor of this, and now inject the AppDB context and also this I configuration. Now this interface is going to allow us to have access to this app.setting.json file. Okay, because you want to use key, the issuer, and the audience. So that's why we are injecting this. Now let's just first have a look on the registration. So for the registration, so the first method that from this abstract class here is going to be for the registration. So this is register user async, and now the model is registration model. Okay, so let's include that. They are there ready. Now you can see from here we are creating a user role as well. So we first check if admin already exists. Okay, so we check if the model coming in here, email contains or starts with the admin. You can make it as end to end or content. Okay, so if it starts with admin, then we want to check if admin already exists. So we're going to check the user role table, and now check if the username or if the role name there is admin. If you have a role name admin, it means that admin has been added already. So in such case, we say that sorry, admin already exists, please change the email address. But in case admin is not there and the user email, the first registration email contains an admin, it means then we assign the role as admin. That is the use case that I'm using. You can also change it. Okay, you can also create a controller for only admin and etc. Can do it. Okay, but for this video, let's maintain this. Also, we check if user already created. So by checking the email, because you want to make the email unique. Okay, so we check if the email is already used. If used, then tell the user it is already used. But if it is not, then we have to hash the password, because we can't save the password just like that. So we have to encrypt the password. So we call this method to encrypt this password. After that, we add this registration table. We add the model coming into this registration table. Then in order for us to have the ID of the current data added or the current row inserted, we have to append .entity to it so we can grab the data again. So we do that, and now in here we check the row. So from here we check if the admin doesn't start with, if the email doesn't start with admin, it means it is a normal user. Then it's going to skip this, and we assigned this. So here we check that the username.row name. So from here, if start with admin, you're going to have the row name as admin. As soon as it gets here and we check if it is not null, it means admin. But as soon as it is null, it means it is not an admin, therefore it's going to be a user. So we assign a user role to it. Then from here, we can also grab the user ID is equal to this registration entity.id. So we are populating this user row. We have the user row name, and then the user ID here, we can grab it from this registered entity that we also stored over here. We can grab the ID. Then we also save it to the user rows, and I'll save the changes, and I'll return account created. So what left here is to hash this password. Now let's get that method. So this method is going to help us to encrypt the password. Alright, so hash this password. We create a sort of 16 bytes, then we generate random numbers, then we use this RFC2898 key, or this is the format to encrypt the password by using the port, the sort, and then the type of iteration, the number of iteration that you want to generate this key, it is the 1000 times. The algorithm name is an SHA1. Okay, aside from that, we generate 20 bytes, then we take out the 16, we copy the sort, and remain the original password, and we convert it to basically for string. So when you do this, it's going to return to us a hash password that the user inserted. Okay, so let's save this, and what we're going to do here is let's create a controller to handle this. So we go to the controller folder, and now we're going to add a new controller to it, and that's going to be maybe account controller or any name at all. So let's go to solution. And within the solution, we have the controller here. Default one, you can see we have the weather forecast. So we're going to change this weather forecast to account. And we can clear everything from here. Okay. Now, what we are doing here is we first have to create a constructor in here. Now, within the constructor, we have to inject the service that we have created. So let's do that. And before we all forget, let's register the service in the program.cs file by creating dependency injection here. So we do that from this solution, program.cs. That is this. And now before the build, let's also add this. So we inject the client interface with its service implementation as well. Alright, so in the controller, let's continue with it. We have to, now we've created a constructor and injected a service. Let's have the registration. So for our registration, we're going to have an HTTP post method. We specify the route as registration. And as you can see, we are adding an attribute here known as allow anonymous. So whether you are logged in, whether you are registered or you're not registered, whether you have an authentication or you don't have a JWT, you are still going to be allowed to access this because this is for registration. And you want everybody to have access to, because here you don't need any JWT authentication or JWT token to access this. Okay, so we do that. So we call this service, and it is returning this flag. So here we're using the tuple. Okay, so we can actually explicitly get the data that we want. So you can see we set as a flag and a message, and we check if it is true, return the OK with the flag, and that's going to be true. But if it is false, then return this message. Okay. So now we have this. Now what we're going to do here is let's open DB browser. So we have a DB browser. You can download it, and that's what we're going to use to access an SQLite database. You can download it from the internet, and it is free. And what I'm going to do here is let's click on Open Database, and we navigate to this. So there is a file. So it is demo restrict API with authentication. So we open it. And as you can see, we have the MyDB file here. So let's open that. When you also check this solution explorer, you can see we have the file created, added. So that's the database. It is added over here. Okay. So when you open this, this is the database that we have. So browse data. We have the registration, everything empty here. Okay. Let's save this. Now let's run this application. And now let's see what's going to happen here. Okay, so we have an error. Let's check out the error here. It is saying this client server does not implement the interface login. Okay, so let's check and here let's comment this because we are not done with the login yet. So let's run this. Okay, so you see that we have this authorized feature on top of this Swagger. And now for the registration, we need not to even add this, because here when you click on this, it means you have to add the token over here. Okay, but we are not having the token yet. So this registration, and now without this authorization, we can still have access to this. All right, so let's see. Now within this is going to be the email. So let's specify maybe user. Let's click on try. So try this out. And now for this email, let's say this is user@mail.com. All right, let the phone, email, and etc. we maintain this. Okay, so that's going to be for the email. Let's cut this. So this is string, as you know. And now let's paste it to the email. Okay, that's what we need. Click on execute. Now let's see. Alright, so you can see that the response here, it is okay and it is true. It means it has been created. Now let's do the same thing to the admin. So we are creating a user and now we are creating an admin. So this is admin@mail.com. Click on execute. Also true. Let's check the database. Now let's refresh this. You can see that we have the database in here. But when you check the password, it is still string. It means our hash system couldn't work. Let's check it out and see where the issue is coming from. So from this, okay, what we are doing here is, you can see we are adding this as far as we had this password. Instead of assigning this module password to this hash, we are not doing that. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to say module.password is equal to this hash password. So we override the old one and now set up the password to the new hash one that we have created. Then we can now add this peacefully. Alright, so let's save this. And this is going to refresh it. So let's clear the data that we have in from this. And write changes. Refresh it, all set. Let's do it again. Okay. So from this, try this out. And for the email, you're going to say user@mail.com. And let's execute this. So true. Let's create one for admin. And let's execute that. Alright, so it is saying, sorry, admin already exists. Now let's see. We did not clear, so let's check it out. We have, so you can see that from here we have the password. Alright, and we have the username. Now let's see from the user row. Okay, so this has been created already. Now the user one is the third one, so let's clear the two ones here. Let's write changes, refresh it, and now let's execute this again. Okay, so true. Now when you check the data, refresh it, you can see we have admin as 4 and then the user is 3. So you can see that from our table we have this created, the user row created, we have the registration also created with the password hash. Okay, so this is working. Now let's work on the login. So for this login, we have to then now activate the interface method that we created, and that is this login. So login user async. Now aside from doing that, what we're going to do here is we're going to create a service. But before that, let me just do this to the controller first as we are in. So we're going to call a service from the controller, and that's going to be the login. So the login to we call the service over here, and we pass in the model. That's going to be the username and now the password. If it is true, then we're going to return the token to the user. But in case it is false, then return the flag as false over here. So we're going to save this, and what we're going to do here is let's go to the service. So from this service, we're going to have the login system. Let's see. So from this client service down here, let's have the login. So there's a login. Alright, so with this method too, what it's going to do here is, when we log in, we have to generate the token. Now the token, you have to create claims. Now the claims, you're going to use the username as the email, and also you're going to use the user row. Now the user row, we have the user row in the database table already, because as soon as the person created an account, we assign a row to that person. So we have to fetch the row from the table, that's the user row table, and add it to the user email so we can use to generate the token. Now anytime the user logs in, we have to check if the user has an account, if the user has the token in the database table already, then we want to remove that token and assign the current token which we generated to that token. So that anytime, all the time, the user will have one token inside the database table. Okay, so that is what this method is doing here. So as you can see, we check if the user email is found. If it is found, we verify the password, the user password. If it's also well, then we get the row from the database. Then we generate the token using the email and the row name as well. Aside from that, we check if the token already exists, then assign it, remove the old one, assign the new one. But if the first time the user is logging in, then it means the token going to be null, then add the token to the database and now save it. So you're going to have the table, the token info, going to have the user token and also the user ID as well. And you're going to have the user row and then the registration information from the user too. So that's what we are doing. Now let's create a method to verify the password. And it is like we are turning this method upside down to decrypt the password or to encrypt the password into hash and also compare. Okay. So we use this method to do that. We decrypt the password. Not that we decrypt, we also encrypt the password and now check. So that's what we are doing. You can see we create the same thing as we did by the sort and we encrypt it. Then we're going to look through and now check if this equal to the current one we have the database, then it means the password is correct. If it is correct, then return what? Boolean. So you could see return either true or false. So we are saying that in case it is true, then continue with this. And for the token generation, we have to also generate token. Now we have the person email and also the person row name. We can now create claims inside the token and also generate the token over here. So we use this method to generate the token here. So you can see generate token and we accept email and also we accept row name. Now we are getting this byte from this key. The key is what we use inside this app.json file, and that's the key. And we create the credentials, we create claims. We're going to use the type name as email and the row as the row name that we specified from this. Also, we specify this attribute or these properties for the token generation. That is the each one and the audience. So we get all this from the app.json as specified. Then the claims is what we have here as user claims. And then the expires is we're going to add 1 day. So when the user logs in, they can use the token for the whole day. But the next day, it has expired and it won't be allowed. Now the credential is what we have as a signing key from the database over here. No, from the app.json file. After that, you write the token, then we have the token over here as a return. You see there's return a string. So we're going to return a string. And now if everything works as expected, you're going to return true and also the token as well. All right, so let's build this. Okay, so you can see that we have the login and it is successfully built and run. So let's click on this login. Let's try this out. So we have the email, we have the password. Now let's open the database here. Now you can see from the database, although we have the user password here, when we check the token info, there's no token here because any of the user here has logged in. So now let's log in once, and this is going to be, let's first log in the user at mail.com. So let's log in, and if it works, we have to return the token, and let's wait and see. All right, so we have the token here. Now, when you decrypt this token, we have the username and we have the row name. Okay, to decrypt this token, let's go to JWT.io, and now let's try to decrypt this token and now see. So let's navigate to a new tab, then JWT.io. Okay, so in here, that's what you're going to do. Let's paste the token here. So we go to this and I will try to copy this. Let's copy only the token. Copy this, go to the token, the IO, and now let's paste it here. So you can see that we have the role name as what user, and there's the expiry date, and there's the local, the issuer, and the audience. You see, so this is a role, right? And there is a name identified as user@mail.com. Let's also register with the admin, and now let's see. So there's an admin, and now let's log in. So this is also the token for the admin. Now let's grab this, and now let's also paste it here. Now you can see now it is admin. Alright, and that's the email here. So it means our token is working perfectly. Now the next thing that we're going to do here is you can see that all these methods we did not authorize it because here we use an attribute known as allow anonymous. So anybody can have access to it without even an account, okay, or that even the token. So now you log in to have the token. Let's check our database, the token info. Now you can see as soon as I'm back, you see we have a new token created, and now the token has been assigned to each. So user ID, and now there's the token name. As soon as I log in again, I'm going to have a new token here. So let's say there's a user ID of 3. There's a user. So I'll copy this and a notepad. So let me just paste this in here. So there is the token, and now let's see. So the last end here, it is KK, right? Now let's log in user again. So log in, and now there's the user. So let me change this to user. So I log in again, and I'm going to generate a new token for me. So if I copy this token and I'll go to this notepad, now here you can see it is different. This is XZ and now this is what KK. Let's check the database. Now we have this here. That's when you copy. Let's refresh this. Now when you copy this and paste it here, you can see it is XG. That's the current one. So it has erased the KK, that's the old one, and I'll assign the new one. So anytime the user logs in, we have a new token generated, and it's going to overwrite what we have in the database, and I replace it with the current token that the user has created. Okay. So at the time we have one token for a user at all time. One token. No matter how many times you try to log in, you're gonna have one token for you all the time. Okay. Now this is working. So what we're going to do here is we're going to create another method, controller method, and inside that controller we're going to restrict it to the user and also to the row. All right, so let's see here. Now we go back to the project and let's create maybe another controller here. So right click on this and now add a new controller. Before that we have to stop this. So add new controller, and this is going to be, let's say this is user controller. We choose an API empty one, and now here we say this is user controller. Okay, so what we're doing here is we create a constructor here, and inside this constructor, maybe we can decide to assign this service over here as iClient service. Okay, and we said there's a client service control period. We can create an assign field. Okay, now within this, what we are going to do inside this constructor here is we want to have access to the current user. So the current user is we want to have access to, so we can use this method to get that. So control K and U and comment that, and we can only comment the one on top. Okay, so we are saying private string, and here we are getting the current row. So the person who's trying to access this controller, we want to get that person's row. Okay, so that row we can control period. Let's see, so using system.security.claims, and let's use that. We want to return the row of that user, and we want to create the first method here, and this first method must be, let's put it here. Okay, so this we are using an authorized attribute on top of this, and now here it is an HTTP GET, So let's specify it on top HTTP get. Okay, and now with this authorized attribute here, we are saying that the role is supposed to be admin. It means only admin can have access to this. So let's see client service. Let's grab this and now we place it here. Okay, so if we are not returning, let's return in here. And now this is supposed to be action result. And it is what? It is returning a string. So let's call this method. Alright, so it is returning the row. So you can see that here we are saying only admin can access this. If it is admin, async, yes. If it is admin, then return this method. But if you are not, you're not going to allow to access this method. Okay, so that's the manage row. So let's say get current row async. So get row async. Let's make it like that. Get row async. Alright. So this get row, we are calling this method, and now we are saying that if the context.identity here as a claim identity, if you're not having the row, or we want to, what we're going to do here is we want to return the value of the row. You know, this is working with the dictionary. That's a key value pair. So the key here is what the claim type.row. So if you want to retrieve the current user row, okay, the value, you want to return it as a string. That's all this method is going to do. Now let's save this, and now let's see. This means we need to register first, because before we can have access to this, so we need to authenticate first. Aside from that, the row must be an admin. If you are a user, you can have access to this. Let's run this and see. So let's wait. So you see that we have two methods or two controllers over here. And the first one is get user. Remember that this, it is authorized and the row is admin. So if I click on execute, what's going to happen? Let's try this out. As soon as we receive 401, it means unauthorized. 401 is unauthorized. Okay, so that's the 401. It means unauthorized. And now let's log in. So let's log in as user. So try this out. And let's log in here as user at mail.com. So log in. So you can have access to a new token. Okay, now let's grab this token. And now let's click on authorize. So it means that passing bearer. So this means any request that comes in must have a token. Now authorize it. And now let's click on close. So now let's try to access this. And you're going to have a forbidden because this is user. And now what this method is expecting, the row is an admin. So when they're going to have forbidden. Now let's try that and see. So execute this again. Okay. So let's see, we have 403. The first one was 401 and this is 403. Now 403, let's grab the meaning of 403 and see. Okay, so when we access this site, you're going to have access to all the status codes over here. Now let's go in for 401. So the first one was 401 and the 401 was unauthorized, right? Now 403 here, it is forbidden. So although we are authorized, but we can't have access to that because the role for that person is what? It is user. Now let's see. So here it is forbidden because we can't have access to that. Now let's see. Let's log in as admin and have access to that and see. So change this as admin. And I'll click on execute. Now we have the token generated. So now let's grab this token. Copy this, then let's authorize it with a new one. So click on authorize, log out, and now pass in bearer as a scheme. Now paste this, now log out. So we click on close. Now let's access that and see. Now we are admin. So let's see. So if I try to execute this, you can see now we have the row as admin over here, right? This is the row as admin. So here we are restricting. Now let's create one more method in there, then we can just close this lesson. So we do that again, and now let's copy the same thing and let's paste this here. So this here, we are saying this is user only, and this user only, it is returning, let's return the row as user, right? So return row user, let's say this is a return row user. And now let's create one method, and here we are saying this is rows are admin and user. And now with this, we are not returning this row, we want to return just a string. So we say, so hello, we are both admin user. Okay, now this is, so let's make it as 1 here. All right, so now we have this method here is going to be executed by both, and now this is going to be executed by what? Or admin or user row. Now when we also create one method, and now we make it as anonymous. So let's see, we say anonymous. So allow anonymous means, so let's see this is allow anonymous. Now with this allow anonymous, we are returning a string, and here we can say that everyone can access. So open to all. So although if you're not authenticated, you can still have access to this. Let's save this, and now let's refresh and see. Alright, so we did not specify the route well. This is HTTP GET, and here this is allow all. This HTTP GET, and now this we say that user or admin user, okay, and this HTTP GET, and let's specify the route as only user. Okay, now let's save this and see if that is going to be solved. All right, so now let's see. Now you are not logged in, so allow all. Let's try this, execute, and you can see we have the content here, open all. Now from this is only user. So when you try to execute this, we have 401. Let's log in as user. So log in as user from this user@mail.com, and now let's execute to get a token. This is a token. Let's copy this token from here, and now let's authorize this. Let's add it to the header from the HTTP context, so bearer. Then let's paste this. So make sure that you put space, authorize, close it. Now let's access only the user service. So let me just, okay, now you have only user, so execute this. Now only user, you see now we have it. And the last one is admin or user. So if you're admin, you can have access to this. If your user can also have access to this. So execute, and you can see we have it. We are both admin and user. If I log into the same thing as the admin, it's still going to work. So let's see. Let's log in as admin too. So instead of this user, I'm going to say admin. Execute. So I have the token here. Let's grab this. Let's now authorize it. So we'll click on this to authorize. So log out, add bearer, paste it, authorize, close it, and now let's hide this. Okay, so this is only user. Execute, we have forbidden 401. Okay, so this is an authorize. Okay, so this only user. Execute. Let's see, this is an admin, right? Now let's get the admin and register and see. So this is user. So this is supposed to be the admin. Execute this, and let's see. Okay, so we have 401. That's unauthorized. Now, did we log in? So let's see. This is an admin. Execute. as an admin. This is a token. Now let's grab this token and let's do it again. So log out, and this bearer, then paste this, authorize. Okay, now let's have access to this method. Okay, so this is for the user, and only admin can have access to it. That's an admin. Now when we come to the one with the only user, so let's minimize this, and this is for only user. So if I access this, let's see, you can see we have 403 as forbidden, right? And now if I hide this, okay, so now if I try to do this admin user, if I click on execute, I am admin, so I can have access to this. I am also user, so I can have access to it. All right, so that is it for this video. Now this video, we've seen how to restrict your API or web API from an authorized access. So you can have a row, you can have multiple rows, any row that you want can have access to that. When the user comes in, you can actually check the row that the user is having and do that by using this authorized attribute. If you want to also allow anonymous, you can do that. And in such case, anybody can have access to that specific method that you specify and allow anonymous attribute on top. I hope this is clear. Thank you so much for watching. Please make sure you subscribe to the channel as well, and also like this video to help this channel grow. I'll leave the source code in the description as said earlier on, so check the description and everything will be there. Thank you so much, and I'm going to catch you up again.